Sometimes I like to kind of move around the darker edges of Steam, no, not those ones, and look at the kind of obscure things that are on there. The things that you don't really hear people talk about, the things that are never really on the top sellers, the things that get released and don't really get noticed as much by as many people. And try and find some hidden gems here and there. Now, I'd love to actually do a sort of hidden gems of the Steam sale video, but I don't really have the time for that right now, unfortunately. I mean, I would absolutely love to do that, but what I can do is bring you some kind of smaller games, the games that you may not really hear about all that often. And one of those, the one that I want to bring you today, is this one, by the name of Rogue Wizards. I kind of and ahhed back and forth whether or not I wanted to actually cover this one, and I decided to because, although it's certainly imperfect, it has a couple of pretty endearing characteristics to it, like the art style, that kind of make me, I guess, feel a little at home playing it. And it's one of those small but cheery games on Steam that I think is worth attention, and it only has like 30 reviews or something like that, so it's obviously not gotten very much of that, and I think it needs more. So, Rogue Wizards is a very colorful kind of, well, it's a turn-based RPG, basically, but it's in the roguelike style, so it is sort of tile-based, turn-based, but it also has this town-building element. Basically, it's one of those games that starts out looking very simple and small, but the more you play it, the more stuff you unlock, and the more things that you upgrade, and the more you realize there's actually quite a bit more to it than it seemed at first, and you could actually spend a significant amount of time while playing it, and it's not just a small game. So here in the town, you will begin to unlock more and more buildings and be able to upgrade them. So if I go, for instance, to the armory sells gear, well, armor. And you can upgrade the armory by actually finding anvils that different enemies in the various dungeons you can visit will drop, and paying some gold. You can also bring items back from dungeons and then sell them to the armory in order to actually reduce this price. So not only do you make money off of it, but you actually have to pay less. You still have to pay the envelope. And that will upgrade the selection, giving you a better selection of more rare, more high-level items. And the same goes for, over here, the blacksmith, which of course sells weapons. In this case, you can see I've sold enough to them for the upgrade to be free. I just need a sledgehammer, which really should be an armorer's hammer, but hey, we won't worry about that right now. And there are actually quite a few different weapon types, and that's actually very important because they all kind of perform differently. Like, for instance, an axe hits in an arc, a chakram will actually damage multiple targets, it will bounce around, and the weapons are actually interestingly varied in how they attack, which is neat. But I think where the game actually shines in terms of its gear is the way that the gear actually progresses. So if I go out of here, look at what I have, you will see that it says rank 5 of 8 or rank 6 of 9. Gear actually has a rank, and the gear levels up with you. So as you use gear, as you kill enemies and get loot and things like that, that mastery percentage will go up. It says use mastery, 38% to next rank. So that will increase as you use the item. And once that goes to 100%, it will rank up one and get another sort of stat on it. So as you can see, this only has 2 right now. It increases my damage and my defense. Very basic ring. But when I get another rank into it, so it'll be 6 of 8, it should get something else and become a more interesting item as a result. And that's mainly what separates like legendaries from rares and things like that, is how many ranks they can have. So that some of you may actually find, like for instance these boots, you may find that some legendaries and things like that aren't as potent as rares at first, but you have to grow them first. You have to actually equip them and grow their potential. So the boots I had were actually better than these, but barely, and they were at the absolute limit of their growth. They were at like rank 5 of 5, but this is at rank 6 of 9, and so it has a lot more potential to actually get better. And that's actually, I don't know, I kind of like that. This is a legendary plus. Basically, that means that your items actually, I guess, it's not just about finding new shinier items, it's also about kind of determining what items you currently have that could potentially get better and what kind of new and interesting things they could have on them. And as far as new and interesting things, we'll take a look at this. This sword has so many things on it, it's ridiculous. It is a rare plus 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 because I've ranked it up to max, and it does a lot of things, including it has a 5% chance to actually cause a singularity on hit, which looks really cool, by the way. It gives me bonus XP, it does a lot of stuff, basically. So you also, of course, have a level system, so you can level up, put points into attributes, you will get attribute points for that. Very basic 3-attribute system, nothing particularly special there. And you also have a spell tree. Magic, as the name may suggest, focuses fairly heavily in this title. Now, the spell tree is simple, and kind of, in my opinion, a bit disappointing, but the spells are at least interesting and fun to use. I was hoping for a bit more. There are 5 schools, the schools are elements, and there are 3 spells in each, so 15 spells. Not a lot. I definitely was hoping for more. I'd like to see at least, I don't know, like 5 or 6 in each. But still, at least they are pretty cool. And the way this works is, I like that sound, by the way, you will level up and get spell points. And I think you can also get them in a couple of other ways. And these spell points will then be spent on leveling up these sort of runes. 1 point per upgrade. And the upgrade will increase its effectiveness in different ways. So in the case of the freeze spell, it's an AoE blizzard, and it will increase the damage and its chance to freeze. In the case of the fireball, it will increase its damage and its chance to ignite the enemy and things like that. It's, you know, pretty basic kind of linear upgrade system in terms of when you level up a spell, it increases basically all of the numbers associated with that spell. And then, once you actually get a spell to a certain rank, you can get the next spell in line. So once you get one of the first of these 2 level 10, you'll be able to get the second one. So that takes a while, unfortunately. That does mean you're kind of stuck with tier 1 spells for a while, because getting these to rank 10 takes quite a long time. But at least, I suppose there are items and things as well, of course, to increase these ranks, and that does mean that getting very good equipment that can increase the ranks of items is actually very, almost necessary if you want to use a lot of magic. And then getting the second tier to rank 20, which takes seemingly forever, I would think, would give you the last tier. So yeah, this is the spell system. Interesting in terms of they look neat and are fun to use, but overall kind of disappointing in my opinion. One of the kind of weaker elements of the game, but it also uses these, which are kind of neat. These are reagents, and you need them to actually cast the spell. As you can see down here, you've got a hotbar. So with 13 Crimson Ash, that gives me 6 casts of Fireball, and so on and so forth. You need these reagents to cast your spells. And this is also this is a talisman. It's a socketable item. You can see that some of my items have sockets in them. I'm keeping this because I want to use it. I just don't have body armor currently that has a socket available, so I'm saving it. And onward we go. So, how you actually, play the game is you go to this travel portal, and it will show you what dungeons are currently available, as well as their difficulty, represented by swards. You then choose one, and you also have a pet. There are various pets. Again, like I said, as you play the game, more and more of these mechanics are unlocked, and you realize that it's actually quite a bit of content to unlock and level and things like that, and it's going to take a bit to actually play. Bigger than you think. So let's go to Goldspire Cavern and fight Raumorni the Uncrushable. Quite the name. Basically, the quest is kind of generally a creature that you must get to the end of the dungeon and kill. You may have noticed those shiny jewels at the bottom of the town. Those represent the actual rogue wizards themselves, who are big boss fights and are interesting and fairly challenging as well. So this is your actual gameplay. A simple but well-executed turn-based dungeon crawler. Break that egg. Make an omelet. And I think one of the things that'll probably stand out to a lot of people immediately is the art style. What was that? I believe I leveled up Muffin Head. And the art style is really quite nice. Oh, there's the singularity going off. See how cool that looks? It actually messes with the tiles and things. That's awesome. Anyway, the art style is very nice. It's very, very colorful. It is detailed, but not, you know, realistic. It's very cartoony. And the enemy designs are very cool. The boss designs are awesome. And of course, I like that your character actually uses your weapon and shield that you equip and things like that, complete with the glow of the particular rank they are, whether it be rare or legendary or what have you. That's neat. And basically, if, you know, a lot of roguelikes, you don't really see item art reflected on your character that often, so that's kind of cool. But it is for all intents and purposes, a kind of... it's one of those 8-directional roguelikes where you can actually move... oh, geez. You can actually move diagonally in one turn, which is important, because enemies will take advantage of this, and so should you. So you do have 8 directions of movement, and you also have, of course, your various spells and everything at your disposal. What is that? It looks like a socket to the And generally speaking, every floor will have a couple of specific things, enemies, and you will get a bonus to the experience you get, of course, for clearing out every enemy on the floor. And it will also have some chests, and there will pretty much always be a specific number of keys to open these chests, and you will have to find them all. And you will also, as you saw there, get a sort of clear bonus also for finding all the chests and opening them. There will basically always be exactly as many keys as there are chests. You just have to find them. Excuse me. Let us descend further. And here we go. As you can see there, of course, going into higher difficulty dungeons will get you better items. You can also find merchants in dungeons, so you can buy stuff in the dungeon and sell stuff to help you get rid of your inventory space. But of course, you do get the whole bonus of being able to reduce the upgrade price if you wait until you get back to town to sell stuff, but you don't always have the inventory space for that. Disarm that for some XP. And that. Also, what was that socketable that I got there? Blasting talisman. Explosion on hit. That seems cool. And I don't really have anything else to socket into that, so why not? Let's do it. The UI is very slick. It is, again, simple, but very effective at what it's meant to do. As you saw there, the socketing was just, I dragged it into the socket, let it go, and that was that. Clicking, it's very click-based. I know this is also on mobile, so that makes sense because it would be very tap-based there. And it's one of those games that you can, I suppose, kind of tell its mobile heritage, cast a spell, but also that its mobile heritage doesn't really affect it. Did a human skeleton just jump out of that bird's body? That's amazing. It doesn't affect it adversely, because you don't have, like, short... that's one of the biggest problems I tend to have with mobile games and ports of mobile games, is you will have often... Mobile games are meant to be played in short bursts, so you'll have very short session lengths, but this game doesn't have that problem at all. The dungeons can get quite long and quite difficult. And, you know, you can play 30, 45 minutes in a single dungeon run in a relatively simple one, in fact. And even longer than that on the harder ones. And the boss battles are definitely involved and not easy at all. So, simple doesn't mean easy. And, in this case, the game, I feel, personally, has used its simplicity to make an effective experience. I think that some parts of it maybe are a little too simple. Like I mentioned, its spell system, I think, could be more complex and interesting. And the combat is definitely as basic as it gets. For a roguelike, it's, you know, point and click, although that's not really all that rare for roguelikes. Their basic combat mechanics don't tend to be that complicated. It's more about the interaction of all the various enemy types and all the gear you have and the special abilities you may obtain, things like that, which in this game is also the case. So it does have that going for it, and each enemy type is actually quite different and has a lot of different characteristics to it that you may have to learn as you get deeper into the more difficult dungeons, when those definitely become super relevant, by the way. It's a neat little game, actually, and there's more to it than at first it may seem. It's available right now on Steam for $15, which I think is maybe, yeah, I'd say that's a pretty fair price. Some people may say 10 is a bit better, but I think that, like I said, once you actually get playing and realize there's a lot more to the game than you at first realized, the price begins to make a little more sense. Although I can still see people saying that that may be a bit much, and I understand. I don't personally mind, but still, I understand. And, but because of the holiday sale, it is currently available for more like $12, $12.50-ish. So you can get it for a bit cheaper. If you're looking for a more kind of classic style turn-based roguelike, then you, God, to mimic, you could definitely do a lot worse than something like this, which is actually pulls that idea off very well, with a modern aesthetic and a nice, slick, modern interface. It's nothing incredibly special, and I do wish there was a little bit more to a couple parts of it. But what it does do, it does very functionally and very well. Just, I suppose, not spectacularly most of the time. But definitely its most notable parts are its art style. This is a problem. This is definitely going to be a problem. So yeah, this is Rogue Wizards. It's just one of those little things that I wanted to show, because unfortunately I don't really have a lot of time right now. I'm trying to bring more content to the channel on a more regular basis again, and things have been very hectic the past couple of months. But I wanted to take the time to do something more small, because there are lots of very interesting games on Steam that get passed by. There's a lot of small, obscure stuff that doesn't really get much attention, and that's a crying shame. And although, like I said, this isn't, you know, a super masterpiece or anything, it is worthy of attention, and this is, I suppose you could say, the first in a couple of videos I want to do that focus on some small stuff on Steam that you don't really hear about that often, that is actually worthy of being played, because it's really quite fun, and sometimes that's plenty enough. Uh-oh. Thar be who I'm trying to kill. Let me switch over. Have a fireball. Oh, he's got a lot of health. Ow! That's rude. I'm gonna fireball the crap out of him. I suppose I can't really end the video without killing the boss. Or trying to kill the boss. This was a very small, short dungeon, but they get much larger than this. And some of them are actually so expansive that they could take you upwards of, like, you know, an hour plus, hour and a half to actually make your way through successfully, which I think is what people would be looking for in a game like this, a more casual roguelike experience. So if that's what you're looking for, then, well, you got it right here. Go check it out on Steam. I think that you'll probably find it's maybe what you're looking for, and a bit more than you thought, I guess. And that's what I'm trying to get across here. So, thanks very much for watching. I'm trying not to get just horribly stabbed to death, and I'm not doing so well on that front. Come on. Come on. Really, you would think that, you know, bones wouldn't really take that much damage from fire, but we're not really going to worry about that right now. Final Fantasy XI taught me that skeletons are weak to fire. Alright, come on. Come on. Oh, there's so many skeletons. There we go. And that is how you kill a skeleton boss and then stand in your own fire like an idiot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and please do have a wonderful holiday season, everyone. Don't drink too much eggnog.